It is exactly 8:34 a.m. and we are going to be looking at the Defense Committee delays action on the DRC's withdrawal. And obviously, this situation is being scrutinized by all interested parties. Let's talk with Shomari Mukandjwa, who is the spokesperson of the Congolese solidarity campaign. Undoubtedly, it's a complex situation, and let's understand just how it's going to unfold. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning to your viewers at home.
Okay, we understand that certain quarters are suggesting that it's still too early for an inquiry into the mission to the DRC. They tell us that they're still awaiting an exit report from the Defense Department regarding this whole situation. Talk to us about exactly where we are at, and how do you believe there's going to be any major impacts regarding the action, the withdrawal of the troops from the Congolese solidarity campaign?
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said again, thanks to the viewers, and thanks for giving the Congolese solidarity campaign again once an opportunity to express our gratitude to the South African public and world over who have been behind supporting DRC for unjustified war carried out by the Rwandan and its external forces, which we call it is a proxy war carried out by the Western countries, namely the France and other countries, including the United States, despite the changes of the administrations now. Indeed, the situation in DRC regarding the withdrawal of SADC missions from the DRC, it is a very complex one. And looking at the South African situation now, they have been what you call the backlash. In fact, since the day one when South Africa deployed its troops to go and help the DRC in order to try to resolve the problem in the DRC. A large number of South African politicians, let me put that way, were not happy, particularly those who have got interest in Congo. We know there are so many South African politicians who have got interest, business interest, mining interest in Congo, and they wanted that situation to continue. They still want that situation to continue in order for them to continue benefiting. So the pushing of the withdrawal of South African troops, it is a delicate one, and there is nothing we can do as a Congolese, because when somebody is seeking help and the one who offers help to you has decided not to offer that help, you cannot force the person. And that is the situation where we are. I think it is a situation where Congolese, particularly the Congolese population, should take into account to say we should have to take a matter into our hands in order than relying on external people or other people to do our work. Of course, we still have to do a lot of campaign to seek support, but yet we have to be implicated into that matter ourselves in order to bring peace to ourselves, in whatever it costs.
Okay, you speak about the incursion by the Rwandans into the DRC. You also indicated that foreign powers are involved, particularly France and the new administration from the USA. Why? Let's go right back to the beginning and understand why this conflict, in fact, started. In my ongoing discussions regarding the DRC, in one of my interviews, the guest had suggested that the Rwandans were also heavily funded by the Israelis regarding this incursion into the DRC. What is their long-term gain? What is the long-term gain of these foreign powers? We also understand the DRC is rich in minerals and they're trying to get their hands on those mineral resources. And then, of course, one of the comments you made was rich politicians from South Africa who have interests in the DRC's mining resources. So that's pretty serious accusations at all the different players. But we do know that that is in fact happening. So let's understand the current situation. Now that SADC has pulled out, what is going to be the DRC's defense mechanisms to all of these people that we've just mentioned?
Well, it is very difficult to to give an account on what the DRC is expecting to do, the government in particular. But as a Congolese solidarity movement, as a civil movement, we are seeking to advise our government to say, relying on the people's outside, because if you look, excuse me, we, the Congolese, have been relying on many external forces, help from other countries, and trying to solve the matter in that way. In that fashion, of course, I think if there's any matter, any war that can be won by expecting the external forces to help. If you can recall, since 2001, the UN, which has brought a lot of soldier troops from different countries. I don't know which country we cannot mention that has never been there, including South Africa was part of South African UN mission. They have been there since 2001, and nothing has resolved. In fact, wherever the UN are, you will find that there is also many wars that are being civil rebel movement are being created. So there is a refacing of this war, of this so-called the rebels who are destabilizing the eastern part of Congo. Now, what the Congo will do, the Congo is to arm its own defense force, equip them with the sophisticated weapons, so that they can defend their territorial integrity. Because relying on SADC, for example, the eastern community that the Congo has joined recently, it will not also solve the problem, because the UN is a clear indication to say since 2001, they've been there and nothing has happened. They were there to defend Congolese populations, to bring peace, yet peace has not been there. Since 2001, as I said, I cannot repeat myself over and over. Everyone knows this. So it is a duty of government of Congo to take the matter seriously.
Okay, if anything, it seems that the situation has worsened over time. Let's look at Rwanda's interest. And my question to you regarding Israel's involvement in funding Rwanda in this incursion. What is it that they're after? Are they wanting more territory? Or are they wanting mining rights as the other Western countries who are so deeply interested in all of your natural minerals and resources?
Yes, the initial idea of the Rwanda, when they went to Western countries to convince them to support them militarily in 1996, was that to take over a peace part of Congo. And that's why when they brought Kabila, the father, Laurent Kabila, their agreement between Kabila and the Rwandese and the Ugandans was that they must be given 300 kilometers into the Congo. It means the whole Kivu part of Congo, which we call Maniema, North and South Kivu, supposed to be annexed to Rwanda. And that's where the Israeli came, because part of that area is so rich in all mineral that we call strategic mineral we talk today. Whatever you call it, coltan, lithium and others, gold and etc. So Israeli came into supporting the Rwanda militarily because they wanted, of course, you know how advanced Israel is when it comes to technologies, and they wanted the mineral from that area, which they could get cheaper because they don't buy from the people. They don't do deal with the government of Congo. They were directly involved by the Rwandan government with Paul Kagame. And from there, they started arming Rwanda and extracting the mineral. That's why you will see from 2003, Rwanda has been the first producer of coltan, for example. When we know Rwanda produces nothing in terms of mineral of coltan. How do you become a first producer when you don't have the mineral of such kind? And that's where the Israeli came, and still today they have been supporting Rwanda. If I may recall another incident, in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, Israeli government proposed they should bring the refugee whom they are being expelled from Israel to Rwanda. What was the reason? It was for them to continue to arm Rwandese with these terrorists who are coming from Israel and other countries in order to feed Kagame with the military in order to continue with the incursion in the DRC. The same proposal with the England, thanks to the English population who stood and said no to this. Now it is again the United States that is proposing the very same. Why is this? The reason is that they want this war to continue. Despite all this that we hear, America has signed what you call historic deal with the DRC. It's just upset. It cannot be understood. You signed a contract which you call historic contract with the DRC in terms of mineral and security, whatever, yet arming the Rwandese with the terrorists whom you don't want to keep in your house, in your country, but bringing Rwanda exactly to the border with the Congo. What does translate? All of us, we are saying it's Americans, it's continuation of American arming Rwandan dictatorship in Kigali.
Shomari, thank you indeed for that very in-depth painting of that picture for us. It's been confusing. We always wondered who the different role players are. Once again, it is the fascists from Israel, from France, as you've indicated, and of course the big bad wolf, which is of course America under this new administration. We're going to have to wrap up there, but let's understand what is the way forward for you as a Congolese Solidarity Campaign, and what sort of hope do you give to the people on the street?
The hope is that the Congolese should stand against any imperialist agenda, as we must draw our aspiration from the South African people when they stood against apartheid, that a system that was not thought one day it will end, but it ended miserably so. Today, you can see those who are not happy with the change are now running away to America, saying that they are being persecuted in South Africa, something that which is not true. And that is exactly the stand that the Congolese should stand. As the South African, how they stood, likewise how the Palestinians have stood from 4 decades of the oppressions, human suffering. Congolese also should take the same stand to defend themselves and to defend their country. We know who the enemy are now. Before, we did not know who's our enemy. They used to play what you call double standards, to say we are with you while they are not with us. We have seen this in UN. We have seen in declarations that are made by the European country, all just to make us asleep. Yet they are the one behind all this war. So the withdrawal of South African troops or SADC missions, of course, it has got impact. It will continue to give a room to this terrorists whom we call the M23 and their allies, Rwandese and the Ugandans, whom we should not forget to mention. Of course, yes, as I said, we have to stand the ground and people to fight for ourselves, and we should not expect somebody to come and die for us. We have to die for ourselves.
Sure, very complex situation, because there seems to be lots of different players involved, the Rwandese, and of course the Ugandans, as you've indicated. What is in it for the Ugandans then? Because we know the Rwandese have been promised, they probably have already infiltrated that 300-kilometer strip of land. They probably have already infiltrated it, and before long, if you do not respond, if you do not have the firepower to defend yourselves, sad to say, you're going to lose that part of the DRC. SADC are moving out their troops. You've also indicated that the UN have been ineffective from the time they've moved in to supposedly defend the DRC. Whom do you turn to now for support? Because clearly, with these very heavy militarized foreign powers, I'm not quite sure if you are fired up militarily to take them on. So, whom do you turn to for assistance? The Chinese, the Russians? Is that an option at all?
I don't think if Chinese and the Russians will bring any significant change. Chinese has been there. Chinese have been in the eastern part of Congo, particularly in my territory, in Fizi and other parts. They've been extracting gold illegally. So this year alone, before the fall of Bukavu, which is my city, Chinese companies have been extracting gold without any license. So they bring their Chinese criminal from China and come and dump them in Africa. And we see even in South Africa, most of them, they come here without paper, without anything. And they do many things that are illegally. Yet, how do you expect somebody to come into a country illegally and expect that will bring much needed change? I don't think if Chinese is a solution to the problem of Africa. Of course, they are there for them to extract our mineral all over African and using their dollar as they have in much into their reserves, but in a way of trying to recolonize us again, if I so. Russians, of course, they have got their own problem. We cannot rely on Russia now. We understand many African countries were liberated by Russian during the colonial and the revolutionary movement that went in 1960s. Yes, they played their roles, but we, as African, abandoned them in the later stage, and again aligned with those who have been oppressing us. Our former masters, colonial masters, we went and stayed with them, sleeping in bed with them, and abandoned the Russians. I don't think if they have that trust with the African yet, because we know they are looking a way to come into expanding their influence as well. But by this time in Congo, the situation is that I don't think if government is willing to collaborate with the Russians now, because they will spoil their deal that they are trying to do with the Americans. We, as a Congolese population, Congolese civilians, we need solidarity from other civilians. We understand the cries that other countries has been civilian, civil movement around the world has brought this change. And if they can continue with this, voicing out what is happening in Congo, calling their countries or their government to do something about what is happening in Congo, I think we can see much needed change that we need. Solidarity, that is what we need most in this time, because it's very difficult for us. We are like an abandoned nations, and what the withdrawal of the SADC now, it shows, of course, they have bowed to Kagame's intimidation. We hear what Kagame said. No country that can allow a small country like Rwanda to intimidate a large country like South Africa, a mighty country that we know. But it is like they are bowed to what they have said, or their intimidation is about. And for that, of course, it's very complex, because this is geopolitics. Everyone is looking where to eat, where to go, what to do. We know the South African government is in a very difficult situation with the relations with the United States. We understand that. And all this geopolitics, we can say that we will continue to seek support from the other civilians like ourselves, South African civilian movement, so that they can help us to make more noise, to go to UK, make more noise, to go to United States, to make more noise, so that we can be heard and helped.
Yeah, you sure have your work cut out for you. I can see a long road ahead of the people of the DRC, but nothing's impossible, like you indicated. If the people become conscious of the situation that you are all in, and if they can all come together under solidarity, then anything and everything can be achieved. Once again, it's the fascist regimes, the Western fascists, who are yet again interfering in black and brown countries. And that is why we have so much of strife all around in Africa and the Middle East. But thank you indeed, Shomari. You've given us such a clear picture of what exactly is going on there. And we hope and pray that things do start improving for your people. Thank you. God bless, and all the very best.
Thank you very much, and blessed to you and your viewers as well.
Absolutely. It is exactly 8:54. Moving on with our show this morning on News and Views. For the first time in a very long time, I really understood very clearly what exactly is the issue in the DRC. So let's just put our hands together and pray for them as well. Let's go for an ad break, and then we're going to be joined by 4 very dynamic women from the South African Muslim Network. I think it's called. I will be corrected in a minute or two. But let's move along then.